Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of JKL Media Reviews. And this time we're doing The Haunting of Hill House. Jesse is a newly converted horror fan. Jesse, how you doing?
I am good. You blinked the porch light three times, so I came to the session. I
Oh, sorry.
assume that is going to be important at some time.
We'll see.
All right, so you guys didn't say I was full of crap, so there that means I
We didn't
feel a
say
little bit.
anything,
Yes, okay,
to
you're
be
not
fair.
saying anything then. I wasn't saying anything now.
Nod my
All right.
head.
And we're not twins, but we're triplets. And the third part of our triad is Karen.
Oh,
Yes.
like the twins on the show.
Yes,
Yep,
exactly.
it's a twin thing.
It's a twin thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, but
So we're talking about episodes 3, which is Touch, and episode 4, the twin thing. And Jesse remarked just before we went on air that he enjoyed these two episodes much more than the first two. And I think that because the first two are doing all the heavy lifting, introducing so many characters, your attention's kind of split. And unfortunately for Stephen and Shirley, because there's so much heavy lifting going on, don't really get to zoom into those characters quite as much as I think the show intended. But in episodes 3, which focuses on Theo, in episode 4, which is the twin thing, which focuses on Luke, you're starting to get a much better sense of these characters as individuals. Jesse, your overall impressions of episodes 3 and 4?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Looking back, two was about Shirley,
Yeah.
right?
and technically one was about Steven.
Mm.
But it wasn't as clear.
Right.
Yeah.
You're setting everything up.
Yeah.
And same thing, Shirley, it's almost like 50% Steven. Then the second one was 75% Shirley. And then you've got almost 80% Theo. Just not saying that's exactly right. And I loved her. I love that actress anyway. And that character, Theo, it was a really interesting storyline with the Smiley Man, her discovering her power, quote unquote, her gift, and determining how to use it. It was just really interesting. And then when I had talked about last time my surprise that Luke was being played by the same character from
Bly
the
Manor. Yeah.
Blind Manor and how much I disliked him in Blind Manor. The fourth episode, I actually liked him. I understood him a little bit more. Not that in episode 1 or 2, you just didn't see anything good about him. You just saw him as someone who's struggling with his addiction. Okay, here's the other embarrassing thing. I know you said this, Lou and
Mhm.
Karen, but I didn't recognize till the wedding that Nell was our heroine from Bly Manor.
That's right.
I know you mentioned, but I did not connect. I went, I know this actress. I
Mm-hmm.
really, I'm sitting there going, I know this actress. Who is that actress? And I go to IMDb, I go, damn it. God, I'm idiot.
Then we're also in Midnight Mass. A big.
Yeah, I liked the first two episodes, but I loved these two episodes. And I had said last time that I wasn't in a hurry to go watch the next two. And I sent an email to both of you guys saying, okay, I am ready to watch. And I rewatched episode 2 and 3 and 4 this weekend.
Wow.
Okay, cool.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Karen, your thoughts on these two episodes?
Oh yeah, they're amazing. Like Jesse said, it seems like each episode gets more and more character centric, where we learn a lot about Steven in that first episode, but it also has a lot of other stuff in to set us up for the rest of this series. And then the second episode, a lot of Shirley, but again, there's more stuff in the background. We get Nell dying in that episode. It seems like Touch is, like he said, like 85% Theo. There's hardly any of the other children or the background. And then I think in the twin thing, it is like 99% Luke. There's not very much of anyone else. We get a little bit about Stephen and his wife separating, but otherwise it's mostly Luke. I have always really liked Luke as a character because no matter what he does, it seems like he can't win. And I feel for that kind of character. We also see that scene where he steals the camera and the iPad from Steven from a different perspective. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
we now know it's true. He really
right.
is trying to get money. And I felt so bad. And also, of course, is how he was betrayed by his friend.
Oh, yeah,
Yes. Yep.
definitely.
Yep.
And he's betrayed by his family too. They want to throw him away.
And I think that you could make the argument this is tough love
Sure.
because they have given him so much and he's pissed it away multiple
Right.
times.
They're not really hitting the crux of his problem. And
Yeah.
I think he more needs therapy than drying out because it stems from something. And until he treats that underlying something, which is his trauma, he's never going to ditch the habit. And because he needs to do something to stop those memories from coming back. And some of it is definitely not memories, as we can see from what happens in that episode. But I think, instead of this tough love thing, instead of them in denial about what happened at Hill House, he's never going to get better. And the the episode with Theo, she has actually put her talents to use. Her talent isn't used in everyday life and her power, quote unquote. But I was impressed by how they portrayed this. It's all in a 1 hour thing. And not only do we get to see her and her talents and how she used it as a child, and that also informs something else that we also get to see her as an adult and putting it to good use, how she got her degree, which is actually taking the money from Stephen where no
Which
one
I
else
loved
did.
that.
Yeah,
And jumping ahead, one, I loved her. You got it a lot considering you were asleep the whole time, which was a great burn. And also, I love the scene where Shirley is appalled. I'm
Mhm.
not taking your blood money. And everyone's, okay, yeah, I guess we don't. Even her husband. And I assume that's what that checkbook is. I assume he takes money from
Mhm.
Stephen to keep the
Funeral home.
funeral home afloat.
Float.
Yep.
And I love Theo. Yeah, lie. Say you got another family, say you've got a mistress,
Because she
whatever.
won't
She'll
be as
be
angry
less
about those.
angry
Yep.
than the truth you're taking his money.
And
I assume that,
she
right?
she makes it clear that she's speaking for everyone.
Yeah,
And that made me bristle. It's not her choice to speak for
right.
everyone. I would have personally, in my family, I would have spoken up and said, "No, you don't speak for me. I'm taking the money." And you wrote about me. You're using my experiences in your book. Fine, but I'll take the money
Yeah.
because they are owed it. And
And
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think part of you could blame him that he's just trying to buy off his conscience. But I think you also could say he honestly, and both could be true, he honestly, like, you guys have brought up some good points. And now that I think about it, we all went through this. It only is fair that I share this money with you.
Yep. I
And
think it's both. And I think a
yeah,
lot of it has to do with how Shirley reacted
yeah,
from the start, learning that he was using their experiences and saying, okay, fine, let me make you less mad and I'll offer you the money. And
yeah,
she's just so hard-headed. And I love how they are actually, whoever the two showrunners are
yeah,
making it leaning into the family position stereotypes. The two older kids, Stephen and Shirley, are very older kid coded.
yeah,
Theo is definitely a middle child, a little more sensitive, feels lost in the group of kids, but is holding her own. And then we have the two younger kids who are finding their way through life and having a hard time, and maybe they were a little spoiled. So they're really leaning into these stereotypes. I love that it means that they've done a lot of research, and they're not only doing the fictionalized part of their family, but they're leaning into real life, which makes us identify with them subliminally. We identify with them because they act like a real family to us. And I really love that.
Yeah.
Luke's episode gets me every single time. And also not Nell's, Theo's gets me every time as well. My heart is wrenched for that little girl. And then Luke, his whole episode is him being tortured, essentially. We can
Yeah.
tell he
Yeah.
doesn't like his group therapy, doesn't like anyone talking bad about his friend. These two were good.
Yeah, it's a fantastic discussion there, by the way, by you two. It's interesting to note now how the series is structured, because Karen, you just mentioned how they've really dug into the stereotypes of the positions of children and family. And the show is working through the characters, the children chronologically. It's taking the oldest,
Yep.
which is Stephen, now, and then it goes to Shirley. Then we get Theo, and now we get Luke. And next episode, we're going to get Nell. That's an interesting approach, because the older characters don't experience as much of what happened at Hill House as the younger ones do.
Yep.
So
I think that's because you know how in a story where it's kids believe in us because their minds are more open.
absolutely, that's a trope in a lot
Yeah.
of horror, and that where or fantasy, where children are much more open to experiences outside of what we would consider as adults believable or normal. And Steve is pretty well on his way to being an adult already, so he doesn't really see much of what's the stuff that's going on. And as you get through the characters, as they get younger, they experience more and more. I think I think all the children are damaged by what happened to them in Hill House, and in different ways. And we can see that manifested in their adult versions of the characters.
Yeah.
The actions that we find annoying. Steve is oblivious to anything but that the others went through. Shirley can only try to deal with things by having as much control as possible over her things. And it seems like they had that as well. And then her adult self cannot form permanent relationships because of it. And Luke is trying to escape what he's seen through drugs, which is the only time he can escape his ghosts, I guess you could say. So it's very interesting how they've structured the show. And
because we don't know what Nell was doing yet, right?
Next episode.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting hearing the vet talk about losing his eyesight and how he can still see them.
Yeah.
And this is Karen brought it up, right? Luke is self-medicating.
Yeah.
We have a friend of the family that went through a lot of issues with illegal drugs and then decided to stop and did whatever was needed to do. And when I talk to them, they are very candid, because I'm like, I see you're drinking alcohol. They said, I wanted to do the drugs. This was not an addiction the way some people think. I wanted it. I did not want to stop. And once I did, then I was able to, because of that. And I think in Luke's case, it isn't that maybe there is the physical withdrawal he has now, but I think this is, as Karen said, this is not he is an addict in that way. I have to stop these voices. I have to stop these visions. The guy in the bowler hat.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Let's just delve a little bit more into touch then with Theo. It's interesting that she's grown up to be a child psychologist.
Yes.
And she's trying to help this one girl in particular. And through her touch, she realizes that the foster father is molesting the child. And her reaction to that scenario was she really can't deal with relationships. There's that girl that she keeps meeting at the bar, but she can't really talk to her, but she needs to be touched. Like she says, touch me as the episode ends. She's got this deep desire to want to be loved and to love somebody. But because of her touch, she's just afraid that she's going to see things that she doesn't want to handle with. And we saw probably the most graphic representation of that is when she went down to the funeral home basement and went in to see Nell's body and started screaming after she touched her.
What do you think she saw?
I don't want to say.
What do you think?
I
Oh,
don't
what
know.
she saw.
Oh,
What do
okay.
you
Yeah.
think she
We'll
saw?
find out.
I
Yeah.
assume she saw her last moments,
Okay.
is what my guess would be.
That's a good guess. And we'll see if that comes to fruition.
Okay.
But I think she is a good actor. And I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
she did a really good job here. Quite different characters than she's played in the other series, which is true for most of the actors. But
Yeah.
this one's a little more subtle. Just in general, anything about this episode that you guys wanted to talk about? Jesse, I'll start with you. What did you think of the whole storyline with the child and whatnot?
Yeah, I did not picture and I should have, right? It being cynical that the foster father was the evil person. He came across so nice. The parents seemed so concerned about her. And I love that Theo said, I touched her and I still didn't see it. She was guilty. That's how many walls this young child had built up. And I thought the scene of looking at the smiley face while she's talking to the foster parents, and you could see in the background staring at that. And when she goes and when she's on the couch and you hear her, she's feeling it and she's putting her hand over her mouth and her body is moving as if someone was molesting her. You go, oh crap. I knew that. And there is a wonderful moment, I think, when you're watching a movie or a TV show or reading a book where you are one moment away from a revelation and you figure out first. It's not you figure it out at the very beginning of the movie and go, yeah, this guy's going to betray him, blah, blah, blah. No, this one is, oh my goodness. So you feel a little bit smug that you figured it just for a few minutes, but you also don't feel cheated that this was so easy. And then when she's in her Jeep and she goes, yeah, I think he's going to go. Trust me.
Have I ever been wrong?
Yes. It is heartbreaking, the end. And she is with the college student, tattoo girl.
Trish.
And yeah, and hey, we're not just here for sex. Let's talk. And she goes on that monologue. This is what I did. And she's now alone. Right? I had to get her out of that. She's still in the system. It could be worse wherever she gets placed now, or she could not get placed at all. But I've had to do this. And then how was your day? And then they fool around, right? I just thought that was so powerful that she wants to connect so badly. She feels something, but she has her own walls. Has to do.
Yeah.
I loved that episode so much. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the best episode of the season. And then when you get to Steven, I'm like, oh my God, this is just as good.
Or Luke, you mean?
Yeah, Luke.
I have a sneaky suspicion that because I know Mike Flanagan is a big Stephen King fan, that this episode is a nod to The Green Mile with John Coffey's ability.
Yeah, so too.
Yeah, so I always got a little bit of a chuckle out of that. And the scene that really brought that home is when the child version of the character, her father's trying to get her out of the house and he grabs her by the arm and then she sees that vision of something happening with her mother. And then it comes back to what you said about Theo telling Luke or Stephen that you did a great job in that last chapter, considering you were asleep for 99% of it.
Yep.
So that's that. And then of course the more tragic episode, I think, because each child has a very tragic story, but for Luke, I still have a bit of trouble equating the child version of the character with the adult version, because the child's got like those Coke bottle glasses on all the time. So what is Luke wearing? Is he adult Luke? Is he wearing contact lenses or what? I don't know. Or maybe he had laser surgery. I don't know. But that whole thing about the bowler and Luke's speech as an adult when he's been 90 days clean, and
Yeah.
he's trying to help that girl, the Trish that helped him.
Now, Trisha's the Asian girl.
Oh, sorry.
Who is it? Joey.
Joey, that's right. Yeah. Like he's worked so hard to get clean. And we have to assume at this point he's not seeing any visions. But once things start going south with Joey, as she falls off the wagon, so to speak. And then there, of course, there's during the whole episode, he's constantly rubbing his neck. He's complaining about being cold, and his arms and legs are stiff. It's just like the guy just can't get a break. And he knows that he's broken everybody's trust, like because he's stolen from them or asked for money so many times. And
That scene where he's smoking and he's like, where do I start? Where do I start with my amends?
yeah,
Was very powerful. And then when his older brother and the person running the rehab center find him, and the reason, I should have seen this, but I didn't until then, is the reason he's cold is because he feels what his sister does, and his sister is now dead.
Yeah.
Embalming.
Mm.
In the refrigerator room and all. That's what I love, the frustration of I'm clean now, right? I haven't done this.
Yeah.
And I think that's so heartbreaking.
Tragic.
Yeah.
Very tragic. Yeah.
He feels everything that Nell feels, right?
Yeah.
So how bad do you think it was growing up with a sister who is depressed and damaged? And he feels not only what he feels, but he feels what she feels too. And I think they had that symbiotic relationship that turned tragic, that they just couldn't dig each other out of anything.
No.
And that makes me hurt even more for Luke, because he has to silence his demons as well as her demons.
Yeah.
And especially for Luke and Nell, there's this frustration that nobody in the family believes them when they are telling them stuff, which we'll see play out as the series goes on. So there's this, like, the deck is so stacked against the younger kids that it's really heartbreaking to see. All the kids have been changed by their experiences at Hill House, and the fact that, going back again to the whole idea of the adaptation of the original novel, which deals really with just one character mainly, the work that they've done here to adapt this to fit into this family unit is pretty amazing, really.
Yeah.
And we're going to move into the more adult side of the story as we get through the kids, and that takes this show in a different direction as well. The other thing I really liked is, there's always the idea of, in fantasy and horror novels, there's a talisman, something that has a special power or protects you. And Luke's 7 figures or stones or whatever, I love that. Like, he had those soldiers, like when he was talking to that girl.
Yeah, where she goes, they don't even believe you're real.
Yeah. And then he puts out those 7 soldiers. And then for Nell, when she saw the bent neck lady again, he puts out the 7 stones, buttons on her bed. I thought that was really cool. And then the whole thing with that ghost, the bowler ghost, I guess we can call him. We don't know what he's up to, but eventually we realize that he's looking for his hat. It was pretty cool. And then that ghost manifests itself with the adult Luke, and Luke's doing that 7 count again. Karen, let's talk about the whole bowler ghost and everything.
Yeah, that hand, number one, it always gets me when he sticks his hand under the bed to look for Luke. That's gross.
The one that got me was when he was walking with his feet not touching the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
Everything with him, Luke only sees his shadow in the house. He sees him down the hallway, but then he sees his shadow when he's under the bed, bending, picking up the hat, putting it back on.
Yeah.
And this guy he touches things. He moves things. His hand is there under the bed. That's super scary.
It
that
is.
Something can actually touch you that you don't understand. And I love what you said about talismans, Lou, especially the younger characters. Theo's got her gloves. Luke had the hat for a minute or two that's haunted, but he does this counting thing. It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that each of them have their own thing. Stephen has his wall, which is, hey, I don't believe in any of this.
Denial.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is her kind of coping mechanism. And I love that they all have this touchstone thing. I also, in the previous episode, in Touch, I love that when Theo touches the girl's hand, she doesn't see the molestation. She sees all the walls that this girl has put up, and
Right.
she sees herself in that and tries to connect with her. But I think she doesn't remember. And that's a thing with trauma where you block it out completely. And I'm sure everybody has something like that. But in this case, it's heartbreaking. And then the thing with Luke and the counting to seven, that's a common thing where you count in order
Yep.
to bring yourself down.
Yep.
And we see that it doesn't help him at all. He counts to seven, which is his family members, 5 kids and the 2 parents. So it's a callback to his family. And again, this whole story is about family.
Yeah.
So he's the one most in touch with that. And he continues to try and use his family as comfort. And I feel like it's such an allegory to how he's treated in his family. He counts to seven and it doesn't help him, but he still tries to use it as his protection, his shield. It's the same thing with his family. He tries to connect with his family and, hey, help me. I need to get better. And they shun him for it instead of actually helping him. I feel like they're trying to show us that in 2 different ways. I read a lot into this series, you could tell, but I do think that one of Flanagan's strengths is he tells a paranormal story, but he also has an allegory to things that we can identify with.
Yeah.
And that is most evident in these 2 episodes, I think, because we're shown a seedy underbelly of how the world works in both cases. Foster parents really doing terrible things to the kids they take in. That's a thing that happens. And then all the stuff that happens with homeless people who are addicts. And especially when the tide turns on Luke, he's trying so hard to help Joey. We know he's clean. And so the things he sees on the street, they're not dampened by drugs. Where normally someone on the street, they take drugs and they're walking through life in a fog, he sees how terrible things are. He sees all the homeless guys around the drums, and he goes to the drum with no one else around it just to warm up because he's so cold. He's trying to stay away from that element in order for him not to fall back into bad habits. And I think the tide turns when Joey betrays him, and that's him giving up. He's forlorn. Everything is gone. He's been betrayed again by someone in his life. And then everything goes wrong with him. He gets up, mugged. Everything is taken from him. No shoes, no jacket. He's already freezing cold all the time. And he's just trudging through life. And finally, he goes, and this, I think a lot of this has to do with what happened to Nell also. I feel like he's really just given up on life at this point. But Stephen and his caseworker finally get in touch with him, and that's the rock bottom for him. Nell is dead. And he knows that Nell didn't commit suicide. They all know this. And they know that the house is terrible and that something bad happened. Why did she go back there? Is their main thing.
Yeah.
I feel in Luke's episode in particular, it's painful to watch because we see through Luke's eyes, and Luke is really trying in this episode. We saw that dinner scene where it's a couple of years later when Stephen has just released the book and they're sitting around. Joey is lucid and looks like a normal person, not an addict. Luke is the same, but they're still treating him like that. They're still discounting everything they're saying.
In Midnight Mass.
Bevan, she played Bevan Midnight Mass. I was just going to say that. She is easy to dislike. She plays dislikable characters very well.
Vibe from
Yeah,
her
maybe
face and what,
looks very severe.
yeah.
And I love that Luke goes there and finds out that Stephen and she have split up, and he's again, it's another turning away kind of thing. No, you can't come in. No, you can't stay here. And she ends up giving him Stephen's information when Stephen probably didn't want Luke to know. And it's just at every turn, Luke is hit with something else terrible. And
Yeah.
and we saw Theo also bumping up against these walls in her job. She's not giving me anything. I got to figure out what's going on. Why does she have these walls? Let me go and investigate the house. She knew that something was going on. And so there's frustration in both of these episodes. And that's what makes it good. We're sitting there going, okay, how is this going to resolve? And in both cases, it does have a resolution, but they're both really sad. And we even see that when Trish comes over to Theo's place, and Theo really, let me tell you what my day has been like, and then I'm going to throw it back at you. She's so good at the sarcasm. And Trish coming over and kissing her after that instead of saying something in response, comforting, a very comforting thing. And also Theo saying, touch me, which is really a strong statement because that's not what she does. And she sees something in Trish that she thinks this might help me. So just these two episodes are superlative, are just really good.
And I think that scene when she starts sharing, I think originally she started out to be just sarcastic, but then just started it's just outpouring of the pain and the frustration. And when she sits there, and I just think it was a very intimate scene.
Definitely.
This was a very intimate.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, I don't know if they have a future together, but she needs someone like that in her life.
Yep.
She needs a bridesmaid because we find out she's into bridesmaids.
Great.
Scenes.
Yeah, that was a great scene. Yeah,
where they're trying to take bets, Shirley and Stephen, on who it is,
like
and then Theo walks out.
I'm into bridesmaids.
Yeah, I'm into bridesmaids.
And Theo again, she's not shy.
Can you zip me up?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, really amazing character work, and the actors are totally up to it. I also like the crossover scene with Luke and Theo, where Luke goes down the dumb waiter, and then he sees that creature, and then of course his shirt gets ripped, and his parents think he just got caught on the elevator or something, or the dumb waiter.
Yeah.
And then with her touch, Theo is able to find that trap door and finds the piece of his pajama shirt that's missing in that.
Yeah.
There's some good that can come of it, but it's just so restrictive in her ability to connect with people, which is the irony, because she can connect better than anybody, but because of that, she's afraid to.
Yeah.
Too bald, and all the good and the bad that you have to.
Well, we feel bad things more than good things, right? We have a stronger reaction to bad things in our life.
Yeah.
So whatever she feels when she touches someone is going to be that kind of strong. And I think that's terrible. That would be torturous. I wouldn't want to have that power at all, because we see in these two episodes and the earlier ones that when she touches someone, she doesn't get happy, bubbly feelings. She gets whatever is bad. Sure.
I think even in the adult life, your point is valid. Part of what makes relationships work is the little lies that we tell to each other and to ourselves about each other as well. And she doesn't have that luxury, or she doesn't have that.
Yeah.
All righty. Let's go around the table starting with you, Jesse. Is there anything about these two episodes that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to bring up?
We now have two intriguing storylines, right? What happened that night?
Right.
What led to the mother's death? What happened? Will we get an answer of the origin of all this ghosts and haunting there? Don't know, but I'm intrigued that. And then what is going to happen with our adults? Are they going to figure out a way to move forward and get past the drama? So I'm intrigued by both storylines. I love spending time with these characters. The more I get to know them, the more I thought, is the secrets checkbook because he's taking Steven's money? Why was Steven sleeping so much and what all did he miss? And I'm looking forward to Nell's story. And what happened to her husband? We haven't seen him, as far as I know. And I don't understand what happened to Steven's marriage quite yet. And if I should know that, please tell me. But I'm
Well,
just
that
excited watching
conversation was there. She made a
yeah.
certain comment about something. If you rewatch that scene, Stephen and his wife exchange a look. There's
Okay.
that's at the root of what's going on with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Karen.
One of the things that I noticed when I first watched Touch was when Olivia talks to Theo, she mentions that her family had this kind of gift and it's been passed down through their family, and that she feels like she knows what's going on with her. And so she gives her the gloves. To me, I wonder if they were drawn to this house on purpose because of these powers, or do they go to houses and this one just happened to be full of this paranormal activity and they pick up on it more
Yeah.
because of what happened? We do see that maybe Hugh has trauma, but I don't think it manifests in anything but trauma. His wife dies, and he just seems very happy-go-lucky through the whole thing. He doesn't believe anything going on. And I
Yeah.
think the kids all believe each other, except for, hey, that's not what I'm going through, but this. So yeah, I feel like the house is a vehicle for whatever their gifts are to amplify.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we know differently. But the father is like, yeah, these are old pipes. These can happen. He is looking for a real reason why these things happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And part of you wants to go, dude,
Pay
but
attention. Yeah.
but I'm also thinking if this was happening to me and it wasn't a movie, I would be looking for those kind of things too. Like you aren't going to go immediately to, oh yeah,
Hey,
it's
there's a
kind of,
gun.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what rubbed off on Steven, because we see
Yeah.
that Steven is old enough to emulate his father's behavior. And I think
Yeah.
Shirley also resists feeling like there's something special going on.
Yeah. I just want to bring up the point again that because Jesse's watching these series almost backwards, the Mike Flanagan series, whereas me and Karen have seen them chronologically as they release. But for me, I have to marvel at the adult version of Luke in this show. And then to see that actor in The House of Bly Manor play such a dick is
Oh, yeah.
it's just, oh, how can that guy be
And
so
he's
good?
just as good there too.
Yeah, he's just so good in that series.
Like the actress who plays Danny, she seems similar,
She is similar.
but no, this guy is totally different.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. The actor Flanagan's wife that's playing Theo, her character in Midnight Mass wasn't really that much different, I don't think.
No.
What she's done, though, the one she plays in The Fall of House of Usher, that's a different character for
Yeah.
sure.
I'm looking forward to that one soon.
So
I don't know if we're going to cover that one.
as we get through this, we
Okay.
can decide that off air. The other thing, I just a little bit of foreshadowing is because of the way the show's structured, there's two things that I'm really looking forward for you to seeing, Jesse. One is to see more of Timothy Hutton as the older version of Thomas's father. And Henry Thomas is doing a fantastic job, but I think Timothy Hutton is just amazing in this
Yeah.
series. And his piece coming up as they move more to the adult side of things will be. I'm really looking forward to your reaction to that part of
Good.
the series as well. All right, so that brings us to the end of the third and fourth episode, and now we move on to episode 5, which is the bent neck lady, and that is the Nell focused episode. And then Two Storms, which is that's more of a family episode. I think the one thing that I'm missing so far in the series is just a scene with all the kids together without the adult, and that hasn't happened yet. All right, so that is our episode 2 of Haunting of Hill House. And we're looking forward to Jesse's reaction after he sees these next 2 episodes.
Which he's probably going to watch today or maybe tomorrow. Okay, that's right.
On the schedule today.
Should be able to, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then we better get out of here so that you have time to do that. And so let's go around the table for contact info. Jesse?
Yeah, you can find me at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can hear me talking music on Set Lusting Bruce. And we just did a Set Lusting Bruce Perfectly Good podcast. Perfectly Good podcast is where I'm going through every John Hyatt song in alphabetical order. We just did a crossover where Sylvan Groth, who's my co-host, and I broke down the new Bruce Springsteen single, Rain in the River. And we treated it the same way we did a John Hyatt song. We talked about just the facts and we broke down all the lyrics and gave it a rating. It's a short episode, so if you want to just sample some of the stuff I do, please check that out. And Charles Skaggs and I are next covering the latest season of Doctor Who. And this Wednesday, we will be talking about Lux, which is basically Doctor Who's version of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
Make sure to watch. You can email us at jklmediareviews@gmail.com. And I am at Oliveria on social media. And my blog is alistuff.com.
All righty. And on social media, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzma. That includes Twitter and Blue Sky. On YouTube, you can find, of course, these episodes under the JKL Media Reviews YouTube channel. On my own channel, Lou's Reviews, I've got all our Babylon 5 episodes that we did, plus the animated movie. Plus, I have my Stephen King podcast and my writing podcasts. So with that, till next time, everyone, take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys have to say.
I'm looking.
Yeah.
Oh, 7.
I only get 6.
I'm looking for the portrait.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right.
Everyone, bye.
Bye-bye. And see.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.